Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today we have Senator Jeff Flake, the Republican Arizona Senator. So far he's only served one term and he's announced he's retiring, and he's expressed extreme displeasure against the current president, and I would just do the scenario as if he joined the Democratic Party and essentially ran against Trump. I know I'm going to see a bunch of comments saying, hey, Trump and Flake are both Republicans, wouldn't this be a primary? Or they would just yell at me, mainly because they didn't watch the beginning of the video. So yeah, but we're just going to do Jeff Flake versus Trump, and then we're going to go do again Roy Cooper versus Trump. I only did one video on that, and it was a really bad map. I apologize for that. I did not like that. And I'm just going to redo it using the Fox News map, and then tomorrow I'm going to be doing Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and Elizabeth Warren all against Trump, and possibly Oprah Winfrey after new CNN poll, a new actual CNN poll instead of just taking public policy polling. CNN actually did a poll, and Oprah Winfrey leads Trump 54% to 39%. Biden leads Trump 59% to 37%, and Sanders leads him 58% to 39%. So that was a considerable thing, but we're going to look through this map as if it was a Jeff Flake versus Trump scenario. So first things first, we're going to start off with the home state. So even with that D by his name, that's enough to give him victories in these few states. New Hampshire, I'm not going to fill in just yet. I'll fill that one in as a toss-up. Fill that one in as a toss-up. All of Maine would be pretty much considered a toss-up, except for that one electoral vote. If, honestly, I'm just going to leave it all as a toss-up so we can talk about it. The Rust Belt, definitely toss-up. A lot of these conservative states, and we'd see Arizona, we're going to come back to, but a number of these states would be considered toss-ups. Because of the fact that Jeff Flake is a former Republican, not necessarily would be the best for the Democratic Party, but it wouldn't be good for the GOP to run a candidate that was, for the Democratic Party, like I said, wouldn't be good for the Democratic Party to run a candidate who is a former member of the GOP, but it wouldn't be good for the GOP to run against someone who's a former member of the Republican Party going against an incumbent president who's extremely unpopular. 181 electoral votes at stake, 105 safe for Trump. Actually, I'm going to leave a couple states toss-ups. So Indiana, Missouri, Texas, I would consider toss-ups just based off the conservative values argument. Going over to Arizona, though, I do think Jeff Flake would win against Trump. Jeff Flake and Trump's approval rating are pretty even, but the home state factor, I think, could overcome that. But 240 electoral votes I have left as a toss-up. Going over to states like New Mexico, I think it would still retain its Democratic identity. Same with that first district in Maine. I think that it would go to Flake. As for Trump winning, I don't know so much about him winning in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, but we're going to go to some more obvious ones. Missouri is probably going to go to Trump again. After he left the GOP, I think he would take a considerable number of moderate Republicans over, and I think a significant part of the left wing would go to a third party or just wouldn't vote. But I don't think it evens out. I think that Flake comes out with an advantage at this point because the Democratic Party was arguing about people like Doug Jones, arguing about Ralph Northam, Phil Murphy, and they all rallied behind him. And after what we've seen with the consistent special elections, I'm going to think that Flake comes in with more of an advantage than a Trump presidency would. Going over to Indiana, Mike Pence, I would give that one to Trump. As for going over to Colorado and Nevada, I think these two states would actually go to Jeff Flake. I mean, he has close enough ideals, and they have two Republican senators who almost are identical to him, Dean Heller and Cory Gardner. Honestly, I think those states would go to Flake. Going over to the state of Virginia, I think Flake could also pick up their 13 electoral votes, considering that it's becoming more and more of a Democratic state. Going up to New Hampshire after the drug-infested den comment, I don't think Trump would even win it in a Republican primary in 2020. That is, if someone like John Kasich runs or another Republican runs against him, I don't think he'll win in New Hampshire. He's lost a lot of voters after that comment, as shown by opinion polling, approval ratings, things like that. Iowa, though, I do think Trump would hold on to Iowa and Ohio and Georgia. I mean, just looking at the way that the map is made, these states are probably going to retain with the GOP, even with Flake on the Democratic ticket. Same thing with Texas. I don't think Flake could really bring out Latino voters the same way you might expect. But going up to Maine, I think that Trump would carry most of Maine. I don't think Flake has enough to win in the Northeast, but I do think that he would have a good white working class appeal going across the Rust Belt, and this ultimately makes him the next president, per se, under the Democratic Party. And I know a lot of people will be mad about this because Trump didn't win, but if this man, think about it this way, if he goes over to the Democratic Party, he would get the majority of Democratic voters, and Donald Trump would not gain in Democratic voters. The only way he would gain voters is if Flake ran on a GOP ticket, and it would just be the GOP versus the GOP essentially, but they wouldn't necessarily gain voters from the Democratic Party. He has an 8% approval rating amongst Democrats. That's not a good thing for an incumbent president. He has a 77% approval rating amongst Republicans. That's not also good for a Republican incumbent. So, a lot of the Republican voters, as they showed in Alabama, Virginia, New Jersey, they will pretty much drop the candidate, and go over to the Democratic side, but we are not seeing the same wave for Democrats going over to the GOP and voting for their candidate out of displeasure. We saw it in 2014 once, but we haven't seen it after the Republican wave in that year. I think that Jeff Flake would win Florida. I mean, I see a victory for Jeff Flake in Florida because of the fact that I think Latino voters coming in with a new Puerto Rican wave of immigrants. If you look at Trump's approval rating, and I know that I use this argument every prediction video, but it's a good argument. I mean, that's a reason why I keep using it. The only argument against me for Trump is saying that he has the incumbent's advantage, and history shows that he'll win. Well, number one, we've never had 4 presidents consecutively reelected, so history doesn't show, and history doesn't work in his favor. And everything that we've seen with him losing a voter race, even if he loses 1% across the Rust Belt, he loses the election if he wins the same voting base, and he's not expanding on it. I mean, after the tax cuts, that's your only argument. That's the only argument I've ever seen. They've gotten big tax cuts. Well, they talk about bonuses from Walmart. Actually look into that because it's not helping. They're laying off a number of workers that would actually get the bonuses. Therefore, they don't have to give out bonuses. But we're going to go on with the video. In North Carolina, I think that one would go to Trump. But overall, the final electoral map, 316 electoral votes for Jeff Flake to 222 for Donald Trump. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you all tomorrow.